This is a lecture from Open Tuition. For the free lecture notes that go with this podcast, please visit opentuition.com.
Alright, well, what I want you to do, can you go back to this question? We've already, all together, we've all entered A, B and E, am I right? Can you go down as fast as you can and check with each other? Can you go back and do C and D? And then carry on with F through to S. Alright? Now hold on just 1 second, but are you clear what I mean? And be careful, it's very easy when you're in a hurry to do one twice or to miss one, so be careful. But I want you to go back and do C and D and then finish all the others. Finally though, when you think you've listed everything, I want you to take each book, cash payments for instance, and I want you to write the total of every column. Okay? So list them all in the relevant books. When you've done it, total up every column. And then we'll come back and see what's happened. So have a go. Any problems, shout. By all means, check with each other. But as fast as you can, please. It shouldn't take too long. All right, well, we're all virtually there. I've looked round, but can you just check, please? And one or two of you haven't quite finished all the totals. If you haven't, copy them in, because I've looked at your figures. But can you all check, in case I... just check the totals, in case I missed anybody. If you haven't got the right total, can you fill it in? And I can sort you out later if something did go wrong. But check, please. Cash receipts. The total of the total should be 12,200. So please, just let me repeat. If anybody's not got the total yet, or different, will you write in the correct total? I can sort you out on any problem after. But 12,2, the total of capital 10,000, sales 1,200, receivables 1,000. Everybody? Cash payments, again please, make sure you've got the right totals in. The total of the totals is 6,400. And the columns 1,600, 2,500, 300, 900, 400, 700. Everybody? Your payables and receivables journal. Payables journal, again, make sure you've got the right total in. 4,400. Receivables journal, 6,600. Your figures are right, Agita, but just put the totals in quick. Everybody? And finally, your receivables and payables ledger. I'm not going to write up all the T accounts, but if you haven't listed the balances, can you put the list in, please? That, let me check it, so I've got it. Your payables ledger. As I say again, please make sure you've got the right balances written down. If you've done anything wrong, I'll check you after. But you should have Chris, 300, William, you owe 1,600, and Bertha, 1,600. Total 3,500. Everybody? And very last of all, if I can cheat, the sales ledger, beg your pardon, the receivables ledger. Last one, but again, if you haven't actually written down the balances in that list, will you do? Anne, 1,100, Edwina, 350, Andrew, 700, Tony, 1,350, George, 2,100. The total of all the balances, the total we're owed, you should have got 5,600. All right? Now, I'm sorry rushing one or two of you a bit, but I think we were all there, or virtually there. But are we all basically happy what we've done so far? Oh. Is anybody basically happy what we've done so far? Oh, good, Liga, I'm glad you are. Fine. All right. Hello. Think where we are, please. We're nearly there, but think where we are. And imagine, obviously there's a limit. Here we've only about 20 transactions. Imagine there were 20,000 of them. Appreciate, we've got a record of every transaction. Every transaction has been recorded in one of those first 4 books. We've got to have a record. We've got a record. You record it the minute you pay money, receive money, etc. But so far, we've got no debits, no credits. You agree? I said before, and I must repeat, your receivables and payables ledgers They look like T accounts, but they're not real T accounts, they're just little notes, that's all. We've not actually done any double entry at all. And clearly we do need double entry, but if you think about it, there's no rush. You know, the only time we actually need the debits credits is when I actually come to try and produce some accounts, you know, my financial statements. You appreciate what I mean? It's only when I come to do my balance sheet and income statement that I actually need the T accounts. For the moment, as long as we've got a record, no problem. But clearly at some stage we do have to do the debits credits. But I say again, there's no hurry. As long as I've got a record, I can come in at the end of the day or the end of the week and do the debits credits. Hello. I thought somebody else didn't have a set of notes then. In practice, although there's no rule, usually we'll wait till the end of the month. Because for most businesses, it's only at the end of the month that they'd ever start thinking about doing income statements, balance sheets. All right? So let's suppose now we've come to the end of the month. I've recorded everything, but at the end of the month, a clever bookkeeper or the accountant appears, and we do need to do the debits credits. Okay? Can anyone remember what's the book called where we actually do the debits credits? The T accounts?
General ledger.
Well, either the general or the nominal ledger. Let me give you a nominal ledger and let's do the debits and credits. We'll do this bit together because it's actually very quick, and then you can do one more thing. But here's your nominal ledger with all the T accounts in. There's 2 pages. Now say, because this is quick, I want to do this bit together, so listen carefully. Let's first of all, can you turn please to your Payables Journal? Your Payables Journal. Have we all got it in front of us? And remember, in your Payables Journal, you've listed every purchase on credit. We need to do the debits credits. Tell me please, hello, what is the debit credit when you buy goods on credit? What's the debit credit? You buy goods on credit.
Credit payables, debit purchases.
Yeah. We debit purchases, we credit payables. You agree? Well, we've got lots and lots of purchases on credit. Well, instead of going through each one and saying, debit purchases, credit payables, 400. Debit purchases, credit payables, debit... Surely, there's no need. Instead of doing each one individually, all I'll do is say, well, in total, we bought 4,400. We'll simply have one big debit and one big credit. Can you turn in your nominal ledger to the purchases account? Nominal ledger purchases. We debit purchases, but again, instead of doing each one separately, we'll simply debit the total, 4,400. And similarly, can you turn to your payables account in the nominal ledger? And again, instead of having thousands of debits, credits, we simply credit with the total of 4,400. Are we all with me? Magita?
Yeah.
And surely more sensible. Just one thing though, although the debit credit is now done, I think you'd agree, if later we ever need to check anything, well, the 4.4, of course, is simply the total. If we needed to do any checking, well, it's in the Payables Journal that we can find all the individual ones. You agree? And so although there's no rule about this, generally you'd perhaps write against it something like PJ, Payables Journal, simply because it's the Payables Journal you'd have to look at if you needed to check that 4,400. You know, if later we found some errors or something. You see my point? So we simply take the total, debit purchases, credit payables, fine, that bit's dealt with. Okay? So, forget your Payables Journal now. Now can you turn to your Receivables Journal? Sorry, look, I'm all over the place. Receivables Journal, here we are. And again, you've lots and lots of sales on credit. What's the double entry for a sale on credit? Debit receivables, credit sales. But instead of doing each one separately, I appear at the end of the month and I simply take the total. In total, we sold 6,600. So in your nominal ledger, please, can you turn to the receivables account? And instead of lots of little debits, we do one big debit of the total, 6,600. The double entry, we credit sales, but again, one big total. So during the month, each one's listed. At the end of the month, I do the double entry, but we do it in total. One big debit, one big credit. Sensible? And again, although there's no rule about this, normally you'd write something like RJ against it for Receivables Journal. Simply because if we ever needed to check that figure, again, you'd have to look at the Receivables Journal to see all the individual sales. Okay? Alright, so we dealt with them. Next one, and watch this next one carefully. Can you turn to your cash receipts book? Now, alright, we've only got 4 receipts, but imagine there could obviously have been 4,000 cash receipts. And you know, I hope, that the double entry, if you receive cash, you always debit cash and you credit somewhere. Alright? Well, again, instead of doing each one separately, debit cash, credit capital, 6,000, debit cash, credit sales, 1,200, and so on, we'll do it in total. And what we do is this. We say, well, the total receipt was 12,200. Sorry? Oh. The total cash received was 12,200. Debit cash. So turn to your cash account in the nominal ledger. Debit 12,200, the total. Where are we going to credit? Some of that was capital, some of that was sales, and so on. Well, we know how much it was. Look at the totals of your analysis column. 10,000 was capital, 1,200 sales, 1,000 receivables. So the double entry, we've debited cash with the full amount. I'll credit capital with 10,000. So turn to your capital account. Credit 10,000. Again, from your total columns, save me going up and down. Some of it was sales. How much was sales, please, the total? Was it 1,200? So, we've got a sales account, haven't we? Yes. Credit your sales account, 1,200. And the rest of it, was it 1,000, was from receivables? And so credit receivables, we've already got the account with 1,000. Are you all with me? Now here, of course, in real life we need to be careful. Because again, instead of doing debit, credit, debit, credit, debit, credit, clearly we're just doing it in total. But with one big debit, all the cash, and with 3 little credits. Agreed? Now, I hope you agree, overall it works. The debits equal the credits. But again, if ever later we needed to check, where's the credit for that? Well, of course, it's a little bit difficult to check because it's in 3 different places. If you wanted to check it, you'd have to look back at the cash receipts book. And so again, you would normally write against it something like CRB, cash receipts book. Not because it's anything to do with debits, credits, but because if you did need to check it, I think clearly you'd have to look at the cash receipts book. Now we're nearly there, but is it making sense, everybody? Day by day, it's all listed in these books. The debits, credits, usually at the end of the month, but you're simply doing it in total. Instead of debit, credit, big debit, big credit, it works at the end of the month. Well, we've one more book, of course, so finally, can you turn to your cash payments book? And help me here, please, save me going up and down. But in exactly the same way, you all know from last time, every time you pay cash, you credit cash and debit somewhere. But we'll just do it in total. The total payment was 6,400. So, credit cash 6,400. We've already got a cash account. Where is it? Credit cash 6,400. And where are we going to debit? Well, the total of each column. Well, I don't want to have to go up and down, so please check me here. If you look at your total column, 1,600 was purchases? Yep. Well, remember, you've already got a purchases account, so debit purchases, 1,600. Uh, 2,500 was the van, so debit the van account, 2,500. 300 rent, debit a rent account, 300. 900 payables, you've already got a payables account. Debit payables. And finally, wages and drawings. Debit wages 400. Drawings 700. So again, I don't think I need to repeat. I think you all see what's happening. Although again, even more here, I hope you agree, if you ever needed to check, it's not immediately obvious, where is the the credit for that 300 rent? It's part of a big total. Any checking, you'd have to look at your cash payments book. And so again, you'd probably write something like CBP against it. It's the cash payment. Oh, CPB, sorry. That's better. It's the cash payments book you'd need to look at if you needed to check any of those figures. All right?